Greetings once again, my friends, and welcome to this new subsection of Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions. I've been saying that I'm going to do it since I hit 100 subscribers on the channel, so thank you guys so much for that. But this is something that I've been wanting to do for quite a while, and so welcome to the first ever episode of We Geek. And the reason that we have this is, as people know from the podcast, there are some areas of geekery we just can't get into because we don't get stories for it, and we don't necessarily have experts that can come in and talk about it. So this is actually a way for us to be able to go into the specific subgenres of geek, whether it be a sports geek, whether it be a criminal law drama geek. Those exist. And today, I actually think this is an appropriate pilot episode because we're going to be talking about Disney and the fact that, here's the thing, everybody to some extent has been a Disney geek at least once in their lives. I mean, for crying out loud, we've all been kids, and therefore a lot of Disney movies have affected our lives, and therefore it seems appropriate to start here because, well, Disney is probably just as life-altering to children as, say, Star Wars is, which is appropriate since Star Wars is now owned by Disney. So let me go ahead and introduce my panel. Of course, I am your host, Adam Mickelson, a.k.a. Drak. Thank you guys so much for joining us on this wonderful journey. And I'm also being joined by my wife, Andrea, who it's been asked for quite a while for you to join the podcast. And I've gotten a lot of horrible criticism because I don't bring you on, because how dare I not bring a woman on? And it's not because of that, people. She's working when we record. Or either that or you're in the middle of a work coma because you just barely got done with a bunch of graveyard shifts. So that's the main reason why we can't really bring you on. Andrea, how are you doing today?
I'm doing just fine.
And are you ready to talk about some Disney?
Oh, yes, I am.
All right. And then today we also have another special panelist here who, at least in my opinion, is whenever I have a question about Disney, I will go to her. I know a lot of people who claim to be Disney experts, but you've been able to hurl out facts that I don't think a whole lot of people knew. And so let me go ahead and welcome my cousin Lizzie Mickelson onto the podcast, or onto Why We Geek. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
So yeah, we're going to be talking about one of your favorite subjects in the world, and thankfully we've got some really great sources here to be able to go with. I'm just kind of sitting back and being the Disney geek. In my own little way, because I'm not like I wouldn't consider myself your average Disney geek. Like I don't go out and immediately have to go see the latest Disney movie or the latest Pixar movie.
Right.
But I am also just very much a lover of Disney and its legacy and what it's been able to do, contrary to what pop culture likes to think Disney is, and how sad that is. But let's go ahead and get things started. And the most appropriate way to get things started is, at least for geeks as far as I'm concerned, is we need to talk about like your first ever moment, like the moment that made you a Disney geek, because that really is a defining moment and it's something that people enjoy. So I'll go ahead and go first, and that way people can get a feel for how the format is going to work here. So my first ever time being not necessarily subjected to Disney, because I'd seen some Disney movies before that, but the one that made me a fan, I actually went and saw I believe it was the Little Mermaid when it did its movie theater tour. Funniest thing, because Little Mermaid's not one of my favorite Disney movies, but that was like my first time seeing a full-on Disney animated movie in a theater, which a lot of people might not necessarily get this, but it is a different experience being able to see that in a silver screen compared to like your TV screen. I'm not saying it looks bad on a TV screen, but it definitely adds something to it. It definitely kicks things up a notch. So like that's my starting moment. The one moment that actually made me more solidly a Disney fan was the movie The Lion King, and being able to go into a huge backlog of Disney movies as a kid. I also have to admit, like, another thing that made me a solid Disney fan is I don't know if you've ever seen them, like the old Walt Disney, like I don't know if you call them documentaries or whatever, where he would actually, before a cartoon, come in.
Yes, absolutely.
And be able to do some speeches, because one of my biggest influences for everything that I do is actually Walt Disney. And the fact that he's such an inspirational figure, even though modern pop culture doesn't really get that. But that would be like my first moment becoming a Disney geek. I have since been able to enjoy Disney animated features up until about, I would say, after Mulan. And then at that point, a lot of the movies just kind of petered off to me.
Yeah.
And I'm not necessarily saying it's because I grew up. It's because things like Pixar happened.
Exactly.
And therefore, that's where I went exactly. So, Lizzie, what was your first defining moment that made you a Disney fan?
Oh my gosh. There's some... I'm trying to think of the one that would be, I don't know, the most inspirational, so to speak. But my mother will always tell this story, is that when I was little, you have those little kids where they listen to something over and over and over again, no matter how many times or annoying it may be.
Yep.
But for me, that was the movie Peter Pan.
Wow, really?
Really. And it's weird to think, because by the time, I was born in 95, so it wasn't, it hadn't just come out. It wasn't like a raging thing, but by the time I was like 3 or 4 and kind of able to understand the concept of magic and the concept of imagination, that movie was just something that I just kind of latched onto.
Okay.
It's like, why couldn't I believe, why shouldn't I be able to fly? Why shouldn't I be able to see mermaids or do or experience all these magical things? And that just kind of opened my eyes to make believe in the power that had.
And that's the amazing thing about Disney, is like they were the first ones to actually tackle on, like, in animated form, the feel of magic.
Exactly.
Being able to show that concept. I like, to me as a kid, one of the biggest like magical moments, just because I had the Disney Channel as a kid, so at that point I saw this a lot, was the Cinderella making into the pumpkin and all that stuff, because it was like, this was their interpretation of magic, these little sparkles just coming off the wand. And so at that point it's like, this is magic being described. This is the first time I've ever actually seen magic described. And I grew up in the 80s, people, so like I had giant robots and G.I. Joe. So that was a big defining moment. Andrea, what was your defining moment that made you a Disney fan?
Well, since I've seen a lot of different Disney movies, but I think the most one that really inspired me was The Lion King.
Okay.
Because, I went and saw that in the theaters, I think with my dad. I don't know about my brother, Alex, the Shadow Blazer.
Yes.
But, ever since then, I've enjoyed watching a lot of Disney movies.
Which is funny because we just quoted, Lion King, I love The Lion King, but it's technically like the second most traumatic film that Disney has in their library. It is
so dark.
It is. I don't know. I always hold it as a second just because, okay, this is going to be sidetracking, but I got to tell this story. So the first moment to me is Bambi. And
oh my gosh.
And here's the reason why. Bambi came out way before my time, but I remember as a kid, it was like 1985, 1986, something like that. And you had Bambi doing another theatrical run.
Okay.
But at the same time, you also had the 1984 Transformers movie coming out, like the good movie, people, the animated, the good movie. But here's the thing. The purpose of that animated movie was to essentially kill off the original toy line and put in a brand new toy line, which meant like the coolest character of all Transformers, Optimus Prime, dies in the movie. I don't know if you've seen the movie.
I have not.
Go see it. It's worth it.
Okay.
As far as I'm concerned. But so like before Michael Bay ever did it like 3 bajillion times, Optimus Prime died for the first time this way.
Okay.
And so you had Bambi in one theater that was traumatizing kids by having Bambi's mom get killed. And then I was in the theater where Optimus Prime got killed. So it was basically a theater of crying kids. It really was like there was I remember this very vividly. There was so many parents comforting their kids. I think there was even a birthday party, and so one family had like 6 kids in their arms. Is like, it's okay, Bambi's mom will be fine, kind of thing. But I mean, I find it funny that 2 of us are bringing up The Lion King, the second most traumatic movie of the Disney line. It actually like caused refunds to be made, at least locally to us. So I just find that a little ironic here, especially with the spoiler alert, Mufasa dies, and Mufasa dies in a very cruel way, but it solidified Jeremy Irons as an awesome villain. So at that point, kind of like what I did before, I'm actually going to bounce this question to you guys. Like, how are you currently a Disney fan, Lizzie? Like, are you usually the person who's going out to the midnight releases of a Disney animated movie, or like, have you expanded that to the live action films, to Marvel, to Star Wars, all of that stuff?
So what I consider myself to like geek out about a lot is kind of going against almost the commercialism that Disney has been punching in our faces.
Yeah.
'Cause I love the old stories and the classic animated ones. And then I remember the day they decided to reintroduce the princesses, and all of a sudden they were covered in sparkles and were like 2 inches around in their waist. And
yeah, like they had the hourglass figure.
It was like, excuse me? Like, Pocahontas is not covered in glitter, okay? That's not what she is. And I just went on it.
They covered her in glitter. That's kind of funny.
It was disgusting. I was like, are you kidding me? Like, that is not what Pocahontas stands for. That's not what she's about. That's not what her story's about. So as you can see, I get really fired up about stuff like that.
That's why this works, people.
With my school and work schedule, I don't get to midnight releases as much as I like to. However, I do have a day off school the day Beauty and the Beast comes out, so you best believe I will be there.
I'll be checking my Facebook feed just to see all the pictures that come out.
It's going to be ridiculous.
I was actually going to say, and this is actually something I want to bring up a little bit later. Hey guys, Future Drak here. I just wanted to make sure to hop in to explain one quick thing. When we did the recording for the Disney Why We Geek, unfortunately, Drak did a little bit of a bad and got into a discussion that we really couldn't get into. So just to kind of preface this, Lizzie has done some work, not necessarily for Disney, but for an outside party that works with them. And so in a lot of cases, we didn't want to create any problems with her and this company, if she wanted to be able to do it again. So you might notice that a couple of times here and there, conversations in the episode might abruptly end, and it's just because we got into that subject, and unfortunately Drak should know better and shouldn't have mentioned it. So I'm just hopping in right now to be able to let you guys know that. Anyway, on with the show. You have a full-on Belle gown kind of thing. I have a feeling that when live action comes out, you're going to find a way to make that work. Dare we say we might see Disney cosplay?
I have some mixed feelings about the images of the dress I've seen so far. I'm very interested to see how the design
I haven't seen
of that
a trailer
movie.
with her in the gown.
Well, they don't show the whole thing. Of course, they're not going to show the whole thing until the grand, staircase moment. But the stuff I have seen, I'm a costume design major. Like, that's what I do. Mm-hmm. And so far, I'm underwhelmed by the yellow dress. And it doesn't have that classic Belle silhouette where you imagine off the shoulders and the tiers of fabric. And so far, I haven't gotten...
Wouldn't that translate as gold, though? Because I thought that was what they were going for in the animated feature, was gold.
Yes, and I think that's what they went for. And depending on which version of, the diamond version or this version, in some cases, it looks like macaroni and cheese. In some cases, it looks yellow. And it just depends on kind of what you're viewing it as. But I do think it was supposed to be kind of like a yellow gold, magic thing. But in the one I've seen so far, it's like more towards a canary, like yellowy type thing. Okay. And I know Emma Watson refused to wear a corset as part of the thing. That was her stance. She's like, I'm not wearing a corset. Women's rights, yippee,
That makes sense for Emma.
It does. It really does. But she's so teeny, it almost doesn't make a difference type thing. No. But, so I'm interested to see the dress in all of its glory. What I've seen so far, I'm a little worried about. But we'll see how it goes.
This is actually new to me. Like, I knew that you were getting into acting, but I didn't know that you actually were a costume design major. And so that actually makes me wonder, like, do you legit cosplay or do anything like that?
A little bit. I'm not as far into the cosplay community as some of my other designer counterparts, especially when we dive into the special effects makeup side of my major. Yeah. There's some people who just who sculpt the most incredible pieces, and I had never been introduced to the cosplay community until very recently, when Comic-Con exploded and all of a sudden it was like, oh, this exists.
Oh yeah, I've been able to sorry, we're diverting from the Disney subject. We'll get back. But through one of the panelists on my podcast, Aldo Gomez, he actually will go and cover the cosplay over at a con.
Yeah.
And so through him, I've been able to meet some of these cosplayers. Man, it's serious business right there.
It's incredible what they can do.
So like you won't make it to the midnight showings, but I'll bet like you will make it.
Oh,
you will make it to the movies.
Absolutely, as soon as I can.
Probably even like go and get the DVDs when they come out.
Absolutely.
So yeah, this is something that you definitely go and do. Andrea, like how do you actually consider yourself a current Disney fan? Will you do any of these things?
It depends on the Disney movie that, if it's something that I want to go see, I would definitely pursue it. If it's something that like, it's okay, but I would like to see it when it comes out.
Okay.
But if it's like something that I have waited for months for it to come out, and I just want to go and get the first opportunity that.
But you don't want to go with me because we've had too many bad moments with that. So we'll get into this too. She dragged me to Maleficent. And I had some thoughts on that one. So for me, like how am I currently a Disney fan? It's actually I'm probably the more cynical person on the panel, and it's mainly because. It's not that I hate Disney. I love Disney, but like I said, every movie past Mulan hasn't necessarily like hit that right note with me. So, but the strange part is like Pixar did. So like that's where I went theirs. So as soon as Toy Story happened, that's where I kind of stayed. To this day, like my favorite 2 Disney movies, or actually now 3, would be The Incredibles, Ratatouille, and Big Hero 6. And the reason I love them is because Brad Bird took an idea for superheroes and actually made it unique and was able to get it on the screen. It makes me so happy that we're getting Incredibles 2, for crying out loud. Because
we've waited so long.
Well, but it's one of those things that comic book fans have never been able to get an answer to. It's like, what happens when somebody like gets hurt as collateral damage in a fight between Superman and Mesmero or Superman and Bizarro? Do they sue them? Can you sue them kind of thing because you don't know who they are? So at that point, I love the fact that answered the question. Ratatouille, the only reason that I love that movie as much as I do, and I recommend this to everybody, is that last scene where you get to hear Vigo's review, because to any person out there right now who's trying to be a critic online, it's so easy to go negative that you need to listen to that statement and actually challenge yourself to go positive on things. It is so easy to just go on, be angry video game nerd, and just go, oh, this is a piece of cockadookie, and blah, 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 blah. But it's actually a harder job as a critic to go into the positive elements and being able to say that, yes, there are bad elements to this film or to this game or whatever, but I'm going to see the good elements. The other one, obviously, is Big Hero 6, because holy crap, I never thought I would see an animated movie that would actually teach kids how to properly deal with grief.
Absolutely.
And the sad part is like when Big Hero 6 came out, my father had passed away. And so at that point, like this is stuff that was very prevalent in my mind, and it blew my mind even more that a kid's movie was teaching kids how to deal with grief. To my knowledge, Lion King never did it. Lion King didn't do it. Bambi didn't do it. Like they just kind of got over it. But this one actually went through the steps and said, this is what you have to go through. So I will always consider these to be beautiful movies. It's just when it comes to like legit Disney stuff, I think the last legit Disney movie I saw was probably Wreck-It Ralph. No, I think is Inside Out Pixar?
I think it's Pixar.
Yeah, so then at that point it probably would have been Wreck-It Ralph was the last one, because I haven't seen Moana yet. I haven't seen it yet, but I want to see it.
Okay.
Because
it's fine.
This is the funny part. We're actually going to get into like we're going to ask you for like a little quasi review of Moana, because you've seen it. Obviously, because we haven't seen it yet. But I want to, and for no other reason than I want to see like how they take on a South Pacific perspective, and well, Dwayne Johnson.
Let's be honest.
Well, I like doing my Rock impression, so that's the way it goes. What are you trying to say? Are you trying to say that The Rock is becoming a boulder? His answer to you is very simple. Do you like pie? So, There you go. There's your WWE moment for the day. Let's go ahead and go on into the next question, which is something that I wanted to bring up with you. You've brought up Disney princesses.
Yes.
And so we've talked a lot.
We have
because since I have a podcast, people bring stuff to my attention that just makes me sit there and thud my head against my desk because I never thought that this was going to be a thing. So, like, for example, I brought to you that I couldn't understand why people were petitioning to remove Merida and, what's her name? From Princess and the Frog. Tiana. They were trying to remove them from Disney princess canon and not officially call them princesses. And that blew my mind in the concept of, holy crap, it's somebody that you can look up to. Why would it matter if they're a princess or not? Like, yeah. I get the whole branding of the Disney princess thing, but Tiana, there's a lot to learn from that character.
Absolutely.
Even Merida, to some extent, there's something to learn. But yet we have no problem bringing in Elsa and her sister. And her sister literally fell in love and wanted to get married overnight. Like, that's literally the stereotype that people are trying to avoid now.
Absolutely.
With the Disney princess kind of stuff. So let's just kind of go in there. Like, what are your thoughts on the Disney princess line? Like, do you think it's still proving an inspiration to? I'm actually not going to limit it to just girls. Like, do you think that the Disney princesses are still along the lines of inspirational? Maybe even like who you think is the most inspirational of them. And I'm also going to expand this into, because there's been more movements, and we haven't talked about this, but they actually want to make a Disney Prince line for the. I saw the twitch there. They want to make a Disney Princess line for the male fans, and I'm not sure how I feel about that. So, Lizzie, what are your thoughts on it?
My thoughts are that now this is going to get some backlash for sure. Go for it. But
ready your comments.
Yeah, I'm so excited. The Disney Princess line is meant to inspire. It is meant to show women who go through trials and tribulations, who face villains that are very scary, and come out on the other side. And I think you can see how that ideal has progressed through time based on the stories that were told. I think Snow White, everybody gives her so much crap, the squeaky voice and the,
oh my goodness. Yes.
Exactly, and, the princesses who sleep through half their movie and wake up because their prince is there, Yeah. And then, but I think as you see through time, now we have moving more into the Belle Ariel type period where these girls are starting to take on their own personality and make their own decisions, good or bad, now kind of moving into, they don't even need a prince to have a movie type thing.
No.
And
because you could technically make the argument in Frozen, Elsa and is it Hilda? Is that her name? No.
Frozen
Elsa and Anna.
They pretty much sell the movie. Like,
absolutely.
I don't even know why Kristoff is there.
Exactly.
So we're starting to see movies that are going down that line, but I do also like them going to that traditional structure when they can.
Absolutely. And I think that's one thing that they returned kind of back to that classical structure. Like they showed it with Tangled. They showed it with Princess and the Frog, although they kind of twisted it. It wasn't that this damsel was in distress. Sometimes it happened to be the other way around.
Yeah, it was more along the lines of the prince was in distress,
Absolutely.
And she was the one fixing it. And so that's the other part that just blows my mind. Why would you want her removed? She's a Disney princess with a work ethic. I mean, for crying out loud.
No,
I love Tiana. I don't necessarily own the movie, but I love Tiana and the concept that she brings to that whole mix.
I agree.
Because in all honesty, I mean, you kind of made the argument. There is Snow White, there is Cinderella, there's Aurora from Sleeping Beauty, but then you also have Belle, and you also have, I'm going to count Nala because Nala is a Disney princess as far as I'm concerned, and also Mulan, where they're assertive,
yes,
and they actually will fight for what they believe in, which is something that I'm not criticizing Cinderella, but like she's exactly how you put it. She's waiting for her prince to come.
She reflects what the time period was. Yeah. She reflects how women were viewed and what their role in society was.
Yep.
And so, I mean, with the whole Princess Canyon, hello.
Princess Canyon, down the street.
Oh, okay. I want to go there. But there is, to be in the canon, there is Walt Disney World holds a ceremony where all the princesses are present and officially welcome the newest member or members, Elsa and Anna, through this whole ceremony. And then you start seeing them in the pictures with all of them lined up or what have you.
Yes.
And then in the merchandise, they have the Disney princess logo. But I mean, when people were getting upset about who they were inducting, oh, they're not the classical princess. Of course they're not. That's not.
That's why in a lot of cases I'm going to give credit to Disney. Is they're trying to break the mold. And they should be, because, I mean, here's the thing. Like, I get that people love Aurora and Cinderella, but the times have definitely changed in this era. You could still have a classic princess like that. I mean, Anna is that. But then you also have a counterbalance where you have Elsa, who's actually willing to step outside of those boundaries and actually, consider things like, I don't know, common sense. So at that point, it surprises me just as much that, I mean, for crying out loud, there was a petition to remove Moana. And she hadn't even come out yet. She, like, the first trailer had come out and people didn't want her because she wasn't the traditional...
You don't even know the story yet. Oh my!
Yeah,
you don't even know the character yet. So how
She's got the traditional format, and I want that.
You can't judge.
That's how you look at it.
You just can't judge a character before you even get to know her.
Absolutely.
So, like, kind of moving things on, and then we'll go to Andrea. But what are your thoughts on the Prince line? Should they do that?
Honestly, it depends on how it's handled. With the whole, like I said, with the whole revamp, it was basically to bring out new merchandise to, they said, oh, it was to modernize the character. I was like, no, it's so you could make new t-shirts with sparkles, let's be honest.
Yes.
And so depending on how the Prince line is handled, I do see it kind of going that way. Like if it's just to bring in, more of a male audience.
Yeah.
But then I go to, well, Disney owns Marvel. Disney owns Star Wars.
That's the thing too. Is like Disney owns Marvel, Disney owns Star Wars, and those are the ones that are going to cater to younger male audiences.
Exactly.
So at that point, like if they want to like make Beast inspirational, I don't have no problem with that. In fact, I think there's a lot to learn from that character. But I would also say, like, I'm gonna get criticized for this, and I'm gonna let the comments get. Look, all the Disney princesses are purdy. All right. If Quasimodo is not part of the Prince line, I'm done. I'm not, like, he is one of my favorite Disney characters of all time.
Absolutely.
If he's not in there, instead they go for, I can't remember the guy with him, Phoebus.
Oh,
if they go
gross.
with Phoebus instead, I will be pissed.
No, that completely misses what they're trying to do, but
Exactly.
I could see that happening.
They could totally do it. And actually, I'm going to expand this, and then we'll go to Andrea. Like, I've also been seeing rumblings. Do we count, since now Marvel and Star Wars are owned by Disney, do we count Rey as a Disney princess?
Or Princess Leia.
Or do we count Black Widow? Or what was the other one? Captain Marvel is getting ready to come out. And so do we count her? I would actually, like, in my opinion, I don't know if you share this, is like, I kind of don't want them counted because they are their own universe. They are their own canon. So at that point, it makes no sense for Black Widow to be standing next to Belle.
I completely agree. I mean, they have their own label. They have their own, besides their own story, they have their own universe, completely separate with completely different rules.
As much as Tony Stark would not like to admit that. But,
exactly. But at the same time, yes, these are women that we can look up to that are inspirational, that have ideals. Absolutely. That doesn't mean you need to put the princess title on them to make it that way. I mean, let them do their own thing.
No, exactly. I mean, because another movement that I did see was, I'm pretty sure you've heard rumblings about this, but well, it was originally Disney because Touchstone was going to do it, but now DreamWorks is going to do a reimagining of Ghost in the Shell.
Oh yeah.
And so a lot of people were saying, "Oh, does this mean that Scarlett Johansson's Major Kusanagi would make that line?" No, she would.
No.
She wouldn't. That makes about as much sense as Natasha Romanoff making it, because you're really going to applaud an international assassin. That's what Black Widow is. But here's the thing: in the Marvel universe, she works because you understand her reasoning for it. But if you bring her into the Disney line, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense.
No.
So Andrea, your thoughts on the whole Disney princess line? Is it a good idea to continue to advertise it the way that it is? I almost dare say, like, get into Star Wars and Marvel too. Do you think they ought to be included into that line, and whether or not a Disney Prince line should be a thing?
Well, I think, if it depends on what characters, get created down the line. I think it's okay to resume the Disney princess, but
You're just saying that because we have a daughter.
And because I'm sitting next to you, it's fine.
But it just depends on how they integrate the new Disney princesses, that really matter. As for, like the Marvel or, anything beyond like Star Wars, I wouldn't necessarily would like to call them Disney princesses. Yeah. I would say more like they could be Disney heroes.
Although I have a feeling Disney will do something for Carrie Fisher.
But that you can make them like Disney heroes or heroines, as the correct term, rather than Disney princesses.
It might be better to go down the line that like DC's doing right now, where they're redoing their DC female heroes as like young teenagers and giving people something to look up to in that regard.
I just think that'd be more the correct term that I would want to classify those characters rather than put them in with the Disney princesses.
Don't stamp a pink tiara labeled Disney princess on a Black Widow like action figure. It doesn't work.
No, it really no, and I agree completely, because again, when you take those characters into effect, it doesn't make sense to have Natasha Romanoff sitting next to Belle.
Yeah,
because
it
Natasha
just seems
killer.
It would just seem very out of place and
see that's the irony of like the Marvel Cinematic Universe. We've only seen the noble side of Natasha. I have no problem telling you in the comics she's flip-flopped so many times that John Kerry would be staring silly at her. So that's just the way it goes.
And as for the Disney Prince line...
See, our buddy Brinton has some thoughts on this, and he's happy about it, but I don't know if I'm necessarily there.
I would just have to say that most likely... It just seems very hard to imagine a Prince line, just because most of the Disney movies were focused on the female characters. So you get to know them a little bit more than the Prince line, the princes or, the it just seems like, you would have to rewatch the show, but from the prince's, side. So it just feels like, in order to integrate a Prince line, you would have to maybe see the story from their point of view rather than from the female side,
Okay. And as far as I'm concerned on the matters, like, I have no problem interjecting. Like, I'm more for bringing more people in, but I agree with you. Marvel shouldn't be part of that princess line. It doesn't make sense for them to be there. Same thing with Rey. I love Rey, but let her be a Jedi.
Absolutely.
But as far as like the Disney princesses, what should be included, what shouldn't be included, I really do not think people on an internet petition are the people to judge this. I think it's the kids, because there are little girls up there that if you don't like Tiana, they're looking up to Tiana, and frankly,
Tiana looks like them. They relate to her the most. Why can't she be a princess?
And to that point, it makes more sense for them to make the decision just as much as it made sense for me as a kid to look at Spider-Man and say, he's relatable to me. So at that point, I really do think that the kids should define that. And heck, if Disney wants to make the costume and let them parade around Disney World, let them do it, I'm totally not against it. So the next question I want to get into is more geekery, and it's basically going to be, what is your favorite Disney movie? And it can be live action or it can be animated. And then also as an added, who is your favorite character? Because here's the thing. I know a lot of people who will say, like, here's my favorite movie, but my favorite character is from a completely different movie kind of thing. In fact, my example would be my favorite Disney movie overall is The Lion King, because that resonated with me as a kid. But one of my favorite overall Disney characters has been Quasimodo.
Yes.
And the reason being, I will always tout Hunchback of Notre Dame over a lot of them, because we hadn't seen animation quality like that since literally Beauty and the Beast. Like, you had the same animation staff, I believe, working on it. So at that point, I love what they did with Quasimodo. And look, as a little geek getting bullied like every day, I mean, it's hard not to relate to Quasimodo. So with that being said, who is your favorite? What's your favorite movie? And who is your favorite character?
I'm pretty sure you already know the answers to these questions, but okay. And I'm gonna.
I do, but they don't.
Okay, I'm gonna get flack for this, but I'm so ready because I get flack for it, and I don't really care. So when I was a kid, everybody was busted up about The Lion King. I didn't see Lion King until I was 12 or 13, just because I grew up. It was just me and my mom. So I wasn't aware. I didn't even see Star Wars until I was like 14. Okay, that's where my
like the original one.
the original ones.
Okay,
just because I wasn't, that just wasn't part of my world. But as far as Disney goes, my favorite movie is Beauty and the Beast. The animation is beautiful. I love how that was kind of the first one to experiment with some of the digital computerized animation.
Yep.
Yeah. And I think that was kind of Belle for me, and she is my favorite character. She was the first princess who stood up for herself in a way that hadn't been seen before. She was the one who made the decisions that she did. She wasn't a damsel in distress. She was the one who made, she decided to sacrifice herself for her father. Yeah. She was the one who went out, who did not fall for the best looking guy and could see through his facade and see that he was really kind of a crummy person. Mm-hmm. And she was a book nerd. I mean, besides the fact that, every little girl kind of looks for the princess that they relate the most to or look like the most. Like, oh, she has blonde hair and I have blonde hair. Blah,
Dude,
blah,
she's
blah.
like every little kid male nerd's dream because like she would read books and she was smart, not only beautiful but smart.
And that was me as a kid. I mean, I loved getting lost in books, and I saw that in her, and I saw how she cared for, her father, that family. You don't always get to see the background family. I mean, and in Cinderella's case, the family, are the villains type thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Like this was kind of the first time. I mean, Little Mermaid did it somewhat, but you really got to see Maurice and the relationship that those two had. It's a very sweet relationship. Mm-hmm. And, she defended her father. She basically sacrificed her life for her father. And then you start bringing in, she's multiple instances of seeing past the outside, both with Gaston and the Beast, and seeing how somebody could do that, because some of the other movies, Prince Charming, oh, he's good looking, and he's a prince, and so he must be perfect, and blah, 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 blah.
And here's the thing, I still know people who vehemently defend Gaston. Like, they like the Beast, but they defend Gaston as well. And here's the thing, like, you can see some possible redeemable qualities in Gaston, but it's hard.
Here's my thing.
That. Here comes the inner Disney fan, people.
I related to that movie so much, even now, because crying out loud, I come across Gastons every single day. They look gorgeous on the outside. You get on the inside and you're like, are you kidding me? Like, this is how you view the world? This is how you think?
Yeah.
And even then, he thinks, is Belle the best person in the town? Absolutely. He only thinks that because he views her as beautiful. What about the fact that she's smart? What about the fact that she reads books? And, he makes a crack at that. I mean, like, come on now.
Well, the other thing, too, that actually frustrates me is there's the now popular criticism that Belle may have been written too pure. So, like, she's almost a, quote, Jesus character. Yeah. And here's the thing. I get that viewpoint, but I'm not necessarily against that concept. I think it's still something that can be looked up to. I get a lot of people say like she's too pure and therefore nobody can really relate to her and like that. I think that's entirely the opposite. I think that's exactly why she can be related to. And I agree with you. Like you can meet people that are literally just they look just so nice and pretty, and they are just absolute darkness on the inside.
And it's awful. And exactly like the same is true as far as the Beast goes. Mm-hmm. You see somebody, I remember being that kid in little elementary school, like making friends with the kids who people thought of as different, who people thought of as scary because they didn't look the same or didn't act the same, but on the inside they're incredible people. You just have to get to know them. And so I related to that a lot. Then you add in the gorgeous music, and I'm done. So
yeah, exactly. So Andrea, your favorite movie and your favorite Disney character?
I'm pretty much like you. I would say The Lion King was my most favorite. just because it was the first probably Disney movie that I can remember seeing in the theater. And that was just one of those very fun times. And it also, I know that a lot of people do not like sequels, but this is like one of the movies that had a good sequel that I actually
really
enjoyed.
It
to
did.
be frequently, because it made me wish that there could have been a Lion King 3, and I felt very bad, but
Well,
that
there
we never got
technically
that.
was
What?
with the whole Lion Guard thing, but because I've heard a lot of people call like that the unofficial,
Like,
either that or the Timon and Pumbaa movie, like the 1.5.
The one
is
and a half
the
one,
unofficial
yeah.
third, and I don't get that. But 2 is like a good successor.
It actually really did good because, that was, because a lot of people always say, oh, I only think the first one's the best because a lot of them, you can never pull off a good sequel.
hello, Toy Story. How's it going? I mean, it can be done.
Oh, yeah. But, for at least
excuse.
for what I can remember. But, because I would watch those 2 movies constantly a lot. And, even seeing Lion King 1.5, it was okay, but it wasn't like my favorite. But it was just fun just to watch what happened in between.
Well, and 2 was awesome just because the mythos that they added to it. Like, they actually created a faction within Pride Rock that actually worshipped Scar. That was amazing to me because Scar's an amazing villain. So at that point, like, there were people who actually liked how he basically ruined Pride Rock. And that I thought that made an amazing kind of conflict, not only for Simba to deal with, but eventually for, is it Kiara? Kiara to deal with along with Kovu. So at that point, it's one of those few Disney sequels that I will applaud as well for being amazing. I have the soundtrack somewhere and I still listen to it.
Oh, yeah. And I really liked the music that they put into it.
Now, so the next question that I need to get, so we've gone into the best character, but I have to go into this because holy crap, Disney has made some awesome villains.
Yes, I
over
was
the
hoping you were
years.
Well, you
ask
never
this.
asked me my favorite character, but...
Oh, I thought you already did. I thought you, okay, yeah, Lion King 2, and then I thought you had already
Well, I would
stated
say
one of them.
Scar would have been my most absolute
Jeremy
favorite
Irons.
So
villain and favorite character.
Have you? I'm just curious, Lizzie. Have you ever seen the live-action Dungeons and Dragons movie?
I have not.
Okay, if you're looking to just have a weekend where you can
Do I
see
just-
where you can see Jeremy Irons just ham it up,
Oh, I'm in.
yeah, go see Dungeons and Dragons. He
I will
is
do
so
it.
amazing in it. So with that, so your favorite character would be Scar.
Very, my favorite character and villain
Is Scar. Okay.
is Scar.
So let's go ahead and get into our favorite villains. And I think in all honesty, I've got to give credit over to Maleficent. She is a trademark awesome villain that has been created that Angelina Jolie ruined. I have no problem admitting this.
I love it so much.
I have no problem admitting it. I hated that movie so bad. But I actually have to hand my favorite villain. I'd give her an honorable mention, but I have to hand it over to Scar. I love Scar, and look, they are almost tied with me. Frollo.
Oh,
Frollo, like that scene where I can't remember the song, is
Hellfire?
Hellfire. That is like the greatest animation I've ever seen in a Disney movie, and I applaud them for making that work. So you have those, and what's even better is that the voice actor that does Frollo has done so many great villains since then. The dude has played literal Lovecraftian horrors, and he's made them amazing. So Lizzie, your favorite villain here?
no, I'm just gonna second that. I mean, Maleficent, literally as a child, I would get terrified. And when I get scared, I don't shut my eyes, I plug my ears because of the music and like the toning and stuff. She would scare me to death.
Yes.
And I didn't see Hunchback until I was older because I don't even think my parents like wanted me to watch it. There's some things in there where it's like, whoa, like that's an adult theme. And so when I did see Hunchback and I understood what Frollo was saying and what Hellfire was about,
Yeah.
I about lost it. I was like, this is the creepiest villain.
This is a song solely about lust.
He's real. That's the scary thing. He's not some mythical creature. Sorry, Ursula. But he is a human being
Yeah.
who thinks he's in the right. He does what he does in the name of his religion, in the name of his beliefs, and that gets warped. And that's an unsettling thing to deal with.
Exactly. But here's the thing. You see it.
Absolutely.
You see him twist the truth in his own mind. Frollo is the perfect example of another series that I'm very fond of, which is the Final Fantasy video game series. They have tons of like villains that eventually become gods. But you want to know the one that's the most popular? The one that doesn't have a giant angel wing growing out of his back? The one that's the most popular amongst most fans is the one that's just a horrible, horrible human being. And so at that point, that's why Frollo resonates. It's because you literally see him. He is evil from the beginning. You see that. And then eventually you see how evil he can get because he twists his own beliefs, his own realities to match what his lust is telling him to pursue. So that's why Hellfire, in a lot of cases, like one of the best animation segments of all Disney.
Incredible.
So yeah, best villains there. We have Scar, and Scar's another perfect example, like where he manipulated the hyenas to do what he wanted. And then you have Frollo. I mean, here's the thing. We mentioned Ursula, and I'll bring out Jafar too, because I also
Jafar
love
would
Jafar.
be Jafar would be another.
In fact, another great sequel movie that came out was, in my opinion, was Return of Jafar.
That was
Jafar.
a pretty good.
We actually saw a villain like go and pursue vengeance, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I'll always hand that out there. The other thing that I want to get into before we expand into other avenues of Disney is, like, I don't think you're much of a gamer, are you, Lizzie? Or
I have been more in the past. School has kind of eaten up my time, but I have gamed in the past, not as much as I almost would like, I would say, just because of the time thing.
Well, it just makes me wonder, because you're such a fan of Disney. Did you ever get around to playing Kingdom Hearts at all?
I've always wanted to.
Kingdom Hearts is a great game.
I've always wanted to. I mean, you add the gaming aspect, and once again, I didn't have brothers, so there weren't a lot of video games lying around the house.
Oh yeah.
But see, and I'm afraid if I start Kingdom Hearts, I won't be able to stop, and I'll just like seclude myself for weeks.
Well, especially since there's like 7 games out there now.
Exactly.
So, well, but I actually recommend, like, when you get a free minute, like when you graduate and all that, go into it, because I would actually because here's the thing, it's not Disney making these guys.
Okay.
It's Square Enix, the people who made Final Fantasy.
Okay.
And they actually honor them fairly well as their own characters. So at that point, you not only get educated, like you get the Aladdin that you would expect, but you also get to see how would Aladdin interact with, like, a dark character, like, say, Cloud.
Okay.
Kind of thing. So that might be something interesting for you to be able to do. So the next question that I want to get into is the live action line, because this has created loads of controversy, including me, because, well, I've only seen one of them, and it soured me to the whole idea from there on.
You're talking about Maleficent, yes? Okay.
Yes. There was only one other movie that I was willing to consider, and that was Pete's Dragon. And then because I remember growing up with that as a kid and loved it, and then I saw the trailer for this current Pete's Dragon. I'm like, you have totally missed the mark.
Yeah.
So at that point, what are your thoughts, Lizzie, on the live action line? Do you think overall it's been successful, or do you think it's Disney wasting money, for lack of a better term?
I think they're getting better as they go. It's not a constant thing at all. It is a hit and miss. Bless them. And what I find interesting is, like, when they stick closer to the story is when people go most crazy for them. So I'm interested to see how Beauty and the Beast pans out. I mean,
this is the one that they've been wanting to see.
This is the one I'm dying.
Yeah.
So help me, if they ruin it, I will lose it.
Well, this is actually the one that I've seen a lot of people literally scream bloody murder. Why wasn't this the first live action movie?
Well, I'm glad it wasn't, to be quite honest, because they've messed up so many times, and now they're trying to figure out what's going on. But, the stuff I've been reading, they're bringing in music from the Broadway show. Wonderful, because those numbers are gorgeous. They're they're bringing in all of these different things, and even in the trailer you see Maurice picking a rose, which is a nod to the old fairy tale that started all of this in the first place. But as far as live action goes, I have not seen them all. I've seen Maleficent and Cinderella. I didn't see and I've seen Jungle Book, because I have a rule where if I haven't seen the original, I won't go see the live action until I see the original, which is why I haven't seen Pete's Dragon, because I haven't seen the original one.
Yeah.
Read me to filth. Go ahead. But with Maleficent, there were some choices. I was excited. I was like, yeah, I want to see this villain because she terrified me as a child. You know, why is she the way that she is? And then it was like
we literally redid her origin to make her a sympathetic villain,
and I wasn't really okay with that.
She could tell you the story. I was ranting and raving when we left the theater.
Yeah.
I was pissed off.
Some of the design choices were beautiful.
Oh,
there were some cool elements in there.
I would agree with that. But my problem is that they tried to go down the sympathetic villain route. And look, I get that they wanted to do that, but sometimes people are just plain evil. And that's okay.
And that's what made her so terrifying.
Yeah.
Don't mess that up.
Yeah, that's why she had such an imposing presence. And I'm not saying, look, I don't like Angelina Jolie, and I've made it very clear on the matter. Any movie that I've seen her in, I've thought she was subpar compared to her other actresses in there. I mean, for crying out loud, I think she was in, I think it was Hackers, like was the first movie she ever did. And again, it just, she's not the greatest actress ever, but I will admit when she actually did the whole throne room scene and explained the curse, that was pretty good. That was a pretty good rendition of it. My only problem was eventually the curse was meaningless, and it was meaningless because of her kind of thing. But I agree with you. Like, Maleficent was a bad entry. From what I've been able to tell, Cinderella was a better step was a step in the right direction.
Absolutely. I mean, Cinderella for me, I was never the biggest Cinderella fan. I was like, dude, just leave. Why are you still there with your evil stepfamily?
Yeah.
Like, leave. You know, and this story, this Cinderella gave us that backstory, gave us why she stays, why she continues to put up with this, you know, and it kind of lines it up where you go, okay, so she's not just a blonde bimbo who's just running around.
Which if you go into other movies, like they portray her as such. The one that people like to bring up is the Hilary Duff Cinderella story.
Oh my
which is
gosh.
Just it bimboifies every single character there.
Yeah, and just so I actually really enjoyed the Cinderella for the fact that it gave me the backstory that I needed to make Cinderella almost a real character that I could believe in, that I could root for. The design of it sends that in itself sparks the most controversy among the design community in as far as the movie goes I've seen in a long time.
Okay.
Because people said, oh my gosh, it's revolutionary, it's beautiful, you know, each character has their own time period, which is true. Looking at each of the characters, you have each of these different periodic silhouettes that are in no way, shape, or form related to each other. And then some people are like, yes, but it works. And then other people like, what's the unifying principle? Like even at school, we debate for hours about this movie, trying to figure out, sit there and go, okay, what is it trying to accomplish with the design? What is it trying to do?
Okay.
I see both sides of the argument in that.
All right.
I think it is a beautifully done movie. I enjoy the color schemes that they chose for the characters to make the characters identifiable at a glance.
Okay.
I thought the take on the dress was interesting, and that whole dress controversy about, oh, they CGI'd her waist. Okay, pipe down. That corset was cinched. That dress is huge. They had to, like, if you look at the yardage of tulle that went into each of those 7 dresses, no wonder her waist looks tiny. I don't think it was computered. Read me to filth. Go ahead.
Wow, Lizzie may have actually just made an argument for me to see Cinderella, just for the heck of it, because I haven't seen it. And then the other one that I want to get into is, I don't think the Peter Pan one has come out yet, but so we're starting to see a conflict now with the Warner Brothers versus Disney, where we have a Jungle Book from each one of them, and now and later on, I don't know if this has happened already, but we have a Peter Pan for both of them too.
Yeah.
I mean, so have you seen the Jungle Book, and do you think it's actually a good idea for both of them to be having movies coming out literally the same year?
I don't think that's the best thing ever, to be quite honest. And the whole concept of a live action is to have people... read me to filth for this. Go ahead.
Yeah.
I almost wouldn't consider Jungle Book a live action. It's a CGI action. It's all computer. It's all... Pretty much. You know, yeah, you have like
majority of it.
Yeah, you have one human character, and props to the kid for being able to act to green screens. You know,
yeah, exactly, because we're talking a child actor here.
And as far as them coming out the same year, I don't think that's smart at all.
No, Warner Brothers is just trying to compete, and unfortunately, Warner Brothers is backed into a corner right now because really they only have one franchise that's bringing them in any kind of money, and that's Harry Potter.
If you go up against Disney, you're going to lose. They have just about everything minus Harry Potter.
For the moment, yeah.
For the moment.
Yeah, because most of that stuff is still in their wheelhouse. Andrea, your thoughts on the live-action line. Is it a good idea or is it a bad idea to continue it?
For me, this is my own personal opinion, but I was always keen to find out what it would be like to take an anime movie to bring it to live action. Whether if it turned out good or bad, I'm very non-biased to it, really, because I enjoy it just to watch what it would look like, whether if the story was good or bad.
Okay.
And for the example of Maleficent, I mean, sure, I understand what the character is like, and whether if I liked it just because I just wanted to see what she looked like, in real life,
I was the same way.
But, whether how she turned out to be in the movie, that really didn't matter because I only go to enjoy a movie just for the heck of it.
Okay.
But, I majority like to just see, I mean, what if it was like if you were seeing like a CG Lion King, that would be just something interesting. Close to a live action is what you're going to get. But since they never gotten around to that.
No, I want them to train the animals to stand on a mark and, it's not going to happen. But the closest we can get is a CGI.
Yeah, but that would be the closest that you might.
I don't know. You got Rudyard Kipling's The Jungle Book. I like that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that was pretty amazing, I have not seen the live action Cinderella yet because I've been just so busy, but I plan to want to go see it. But that was just one of the fairy tale shows that, I've seen so many different variations of Cinderella, like even on TV. It's
ABC
just like,
Family, please stop.
It's just like how many
the
different
correct
versions
pronunciation
of
is
Cinderellas
Freeform.
can you possibly see,
Yeah.
It's just like, come on, if you're going to be doing more movies like that, why don't you expand to like Sleeping Beauty, another version, or another Snow White, I mean, how many more Cinderellas do we need to see?
Exactly. And my thoughts on the live action line is, I mean, Lizzie's made some compelling arguments for me to go see Cinderella at the very least. Am I going to go see the live action Jungle Book? Probably not.
Well, you could just watch that on Netflix.
Well, here's the thing. My niece wants me to watch Jungle Book, and I'm like, I don't know if I can do it. And then on top of that, Pete's Dragon. Pete's Dragon was a disappointment to me because that is one of those movies that I think would have worked in this day and age, and they missed the mark.
Probably,
completely.
I would like to just see how it would look if you did a live action Little Mermaid or something.
Okay.
I am very interested in that.
I think that's the next one, isn't it?
I felt like it was. Well, and the rumors were swirling even before I felt like Beauty and the Beast was cast of, live action Little Mermaid with Emma Watson.
Oh, no, you know what? That isn't the next one. Because we confirmed on Geek News it's Mulan. Mulan's
That's
the next
right.
that
They
would-
are
that would
casting
be
that
a-
right
that'd
now.
be an
But
interesting
they're
one.
bringing in like a Chinese director and all that. So
They're doing it the right way.
Mhm.
No.
So like, because that was like our complaint is that if you bring in somebody like Rupert Sanders that doesn't understand it, and I think we confirmed that it was going to be a Chinese director and a popular one. So
And even the casting notices, people are saying hooray for the casting notices because it's very specific,
which is funny because they're doing everything right with Mulan, and they didn't do it all right with Ghost in the Shell. Holy whitewashing, Batman. So the final question that I want to get into for this podcast, we're running out of time, but I do want to address it, is the integration of Marvel and Star Wars into Disney, and how we feel like has it impacted Disney for the better or for the worse? I would dare say it has been for the better because, like we pointed out, it does cater more to a male audience. But on top of that, Disney animation has always been very quality. And so bringing that into Marvel, I don't know, like, I follow animated series because I'm a big animation nut. But the animated series that have come out from the Disney era of Marvel have been amazing. Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes, if you haven't watched it, you should. For crying out loud, it's probably some of the best storytelling that I've seen in a Marvel series for the longest time. I'm talking like 90s. X-Men the animated series, Spider-Man on Fox. That's how long it's been since we've had some quality series. And Star Wars, I mean, Rebels is amazing.
Yes.
I'm not the biggest fan of the animation of either Clone Wars or Rebels, but the stories that they're telling are great. So at that point, I actually like the integration. The only thing that bothers me with the integration is, and I'm probably the only one here, is like, I really don't need a Star Wars portion of the park. Especially, like, here's my problem with it, and see whether or not my reasoning is right here, Lizzie. They're ripping up Frontierland to put this in.
I'm still bitter.
And Tomorrowland isn't the place that you would consider doing that. Tomorrowland is basically Pixar Land. I think we could all pretty much agree to that right now, because 80% of it now is just littered with Buzz Lightyear, littered with Monsters Inc., and all that stuff. So it would have been great to repurpose Tomorrowland to be Star Wars. And instead we're losing Frontierland because I guess that doesn't resonate with people. I guess the Hall of Presidents isn't the cool thing to do, which is still kind of annoying to me. But aside from that little nitpick, I actually do love the Marvel and the Star Wars integration to Disney. What are your thoughts on it, Lizzie?
I'm pretty much in the same boat as you. I mean, Disney is all about character integrity, so much so they shove it down your throat with all these copyrights. So you know that when they take a character, when they acquire the rights to a character, they're going to do their research and they're going to do it right. I mean, the characters that they're coming out with, transferring from the comics, from the stories that we all love into these, characters that are right before us have been successful. And not just a little bit, like a lot of it.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that's really interesting is how, at first we all thought of Disney as just princesses and fairies and blah, 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 blah. Then all of a sudden they're like, oh, superheroes. And they can still create quality series, quality animation with it.
But I think that actually falls more into the Walt Disney philosophy of it. It wasn't just that they were doing magic. It was that they were creating worlds kind of thing. And that's always how Walt looked at it. So I love the people who throw out the whole Disney will copyright you to death. Okay, guys, Disney's not half as bad as some of the other people I have to deal with. Cough, cough, Nintendo, cough,
my gosh, yes.
So at that point, like, I get that people don't like that Disney protects their brands, but let's just be honest with ourselves for a second here. If you owned Mickey Mouse, would you not protect it? Yeah, you would. You'd protect it with every fiber of your being, and you would want to make sure that it is never perverted.
And I like how that same philosophy is transferring to these Marvel characters. Now they're protecting them. And it is interesting to see them in the parks. Like, you go and you meet Captain America, you can meet these different characters.
Yeah.
And it was an interesting jump for me. And I agree with your whole, Star Wars thing, because in Disneyland, as far as Disneyland is concerned, they have Star Tours in Tomorrowland. And then Star Wars Land is now being built on the entire opposite end of the park.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, okay, that's...
And even then, the MGM Studios had, like, dedicated stuff to Star Wars.
Yeah. And so I'm interested to see how Star Wars Land... if they're going to shut down Tomorrowland and reboot that once Star Wars is up and running, like, I don't know.
I'm kind of wondering if they will, but I'm there with you. This is like, it doesn't make sense to have Star Wars Land and Tomorrowland all in the same place.
Yeah.
But the other thing too that I also want to point out is, like, with Marvel and Star Wars, the other thing that Disney adds that they don't get a whole lot of credit for is creative freedom. Holy crap! How much does creative freedom play into things these days? I mean, yeah, you have Iron Man and Captain America walking around, but then you still have Marvel being able to darken characters and have them go through angles that nobody ever thought that they would be able to go through. I mean, for crying out loud, if Disney, like, had as much assertion as they had, then I wouldn't have the Netflix Marvel series, which are so not Disney.
No.
So not Disney.
And we love them.
And they're awesome. And mainly because they actually make us think outside the box and in ways that we never thought we would consider those characters. I mean, for crying out loud, characters like Daredevil
so good
would never make sense in a Disney
You want to see him in a Disney park? Like, no, that's not going to work.
No. And here's the thing. A lighthearted Daredevil, well, we got the Ben Affleck Daredevil, and that's about as lighthearted as you're going to get.
Yeah.
So the Netflix series had to be dark. And so at that point, I will applaud Disney for at least giving the creative freedom to say, okay, these aren't necessarily our characters. They're steeped in this mythology. Let's let people do what they want to do with them as long as it's successful. So I don't think the acquisition is a bad idea. I think it's only helped Disney in the long run because they've been able to step outside of their, we're so kooky and magic-filled kind of persona. And now we have things like Star Wars and Marvel to be able to fall back on. Andrea, your thoughts on the acquisitions of Marvel and Disney, or Marvel and Star Wars. Are they working out for Disney, or should they just get rid of them entirely?
Well, I think they should be just offered the opportunity to see where they can go with these, the franchise and stuff like that. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out, really,
Yeah.
Because, I mean, they were owned by, the previous, wherever they, and, if they didn't want to pursue it, then, give somebody else and see how well it...
Yeah, it literally, for as much as we want to say, Disney are the grand overlords of everything, they looked at the properties of Marvel and said, we don't need to step in. These are established properties. All we need to do is make sure these guys have the funding and let them have the creativity and let them run with it.
And who knows, maybe they might have some new ideas for these, for Marvel and...
Because I can guarantee you, that's one of the reasons I like Disney is Disney's not necessarily a company that breathes down your throat. If you're spending their money improperly, they will. But if you're still making a quality product, I mean, for crying out loud, one of the worst examples of this is Electronic Arts. Electronic Arts is a game company that literally breathes down their developers' necks, and then we get inferior products because of it, because they were built to match a deadline. Just think if Disney was breathing down Joss Whedon's neck when he was making the Avengers. Would we have gotten half the quality movie we got out of that? Absolutely not. Especially since, Joss is not necessarily the director they'd hire. So at that point, we wouldn't have gotten the Avengers that we got. We wouldn't have gotten Age of Ultron the way that it came out. So at that point, I'll at least give the credit over to Disney. They know when to apply the creative freedom and to let people just run with their ideas. And when there is a bad idea, they will get rid of it. Don't get me wrong. In fact, one of the things that really bugged me was when they did Tron Legacy and then eventually they had a series. I liked where they were going with it, but it wasn't making money.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's disappointing, but they know when to back off from a property and put their money elsewhere. So that's actually, we're a little over, but that's going to go ahead and do it for this first episode of Why We Geek. This is amazing. This has been awesome to be able to do. And here's the thing. We're not even done yet. Because we're also going to be recording episode 2, so you guys will get that very soon. But just to wrap things up, if people want to get a hold of us, Andrea, you have a Twitter. Do you want to go ahead and broadcast that to people? No?
She's like, I'm a pass.
No, I don't use Twitter very often, but...
Well, you can find Andrea on my channel often because we actually do Let's Plays together. In fact, right now we are currently working on the God of War, the original God of War games. So at that point, you've got that to look forward to. You do have a Twitter, and we do broadcast that out. I believe it's at AMS Mickelson.
AMS Mickelson.
So you guys can check that out. Lizzie, if people want to get a hold of you for feedback on your thoughts or just to geekify with you, how do they do it?
I am just about on every social media platform, like the true, little 21-year-old I am. So Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, it's all Lizzie Mickelson. Come at me. Let's do this.
Come at me, Scrub Lord. I'm ripped. Is basically what you're saying. And then obviously, if people want to get a hold of me, you can. Obviously, you're on my YouTube channel right now, and welcome. Please subscribe. Please like to the comment and comment, and subscribe. Usual things that people ask for you. You could also follow me on Twitter at Drak2326 and leave your thoughts there and say whether or not I'm a complete idiot because Disney Prince line would be the most amazing thing ever. Because you guys will do it. And yeah, if you guys, and again, this is a little sub branch of the Geek News Reviews and Opinions podcast. So I would recommend wholeheartedly, if this is your first episode, check us out. We broadcast every Saturday night from 10 p.m. to midnight, and we cover the week's events in Geek. So I have a feeling, for example, we're starting up again next week. One of the first stories that we have to talk about is sadly the passing of Debbie Reynolds and Carrie Fisher. What a way to end out 2016.
2016 was just one of those years that all the best people that we've known passed away for some reason. It's just like, what the heck?
I'm definitely ready for the new year.
Yes, we somebody actually did the count. There's been like 25 deaths.
I mean, watching those like in memoriam videos, it's like, oh.
Yeah, including the fact that we've had both a prince and a princess die this year.
I quit.
So exactly, can we just be done with it? Anyway, so we will be back for episode 2, where we will be taking on a very unusual property, but one that is also very appropriate for this one. And I'm not going to say what it is because the background music has already come in and it is explaining it to you guys. So we'll see you guys next time.